Hello, my name is Stephanie Gramann, and welcome to my presentation on cultural humility. I hope you enjoy it and take away some useful information. The concept of cultural humility was created in 1998 by Doctors Tervalan and Murray Garcia. They wanted to go beyond the concept of cultural competency, which denotes an endpoint of knowledge and understanding. They wanted practitioners to achieve a true understanding of culture and how it impacted individuals. They initially created the framework for use in training medical students to address healthcare disparities. But now it has been adapted by many professions such as social work, psychology, and even business. In their Sentinel article, Turvalon and Maria Garcia stated that cultural humility incorporates a lifelong commitment to self-evaluation and self-critique, and redressing power imbalances and developing mutually non-paternalistic clinical and advocacy partnerships with communities on behalf of individuals and defined populations. What does cultural humility require? It requires us to take responsibility for our communication and relationships with other people. It requires us to continually examine what our assumptions and feelings are regarding people from different cultures and backgrounds. It also requires us to persist toward the goal of eliminating cultural barriers. Lastly, it requires us to consider everyone to be an individual with different perspectives that we can learn from. This is the cultural spectrum. As you can see, there is a progression of stages, but with cultural humility, it's not a finite step, but a lifelong assessment. Cultural humility and leadership. Morris, Brotheridge, and Abransky looked at humility and leadership, which includes cultural humility. They found that it predicts supportiveness towards others. It also predicts socialized power association, which means the leader is concerned about the group goals and how they can be achieved. Lastly, it predicts participative leadership, where the leader engages the group in important aspects and decisions of the organization. Vera and Rodriguez found that humility is valuable in organizational leadership because it plays a big role in organizational learning, which is exhibited by staff being open to change and learning from others, as well as acknowledging the fact that they don't know all the answers. It also allows the organization to offer high quality services by being respectful towards others and genuinely wanting to serve them. Organizational resiliency is also promoted by not allowing leaders or staff to become complacent and giving them the tools to reassess practices if something is not going well. Cultural humility and organizational leadership. A culturally humble leader prioritizes self-reflection by continually engaging in self-assessment and self-critique. It is also important that leaders are aware of power imbalances in relationships and that they address them and create respectful relationships. Leaders also need to realize that every individual they come into contact with has something to teach them. And lastly, they need to ensure the entire organization participates in cultural humility practices. An organization that exhibits this is BMO Financial Services. For the last decade, they have been committed to learning and understanding the relationship between different cultures so that they can better serve their ever diversifying customers. An executive at BMO stated that BMO does their best not to walk into any relationships with any cultural assumptions. They look beyond someone's race, ethnicity, gender, and orientation to see who they really are. Cultural humility in leadership. The 5 R's of cultural humility in clinical practice is a framework that has been designed by the Society of Hospital Medicine. The 5 R's stand for first, reflection. This is reflection directs the practitioner to approach every patient with the thought that everyone has something to learn as well as to teach. The second R is respect. And that denotes that the practitioner should treat all patients with respect and preserve the patient's dignity. Next, regard denotes that practitioners should always have positive regard towards their patients and not allow implicit bias to affect their care. With relevance, it is thought that all people will find cultural humility important and it should be employed in every patient encounter. Finally, resiliency speaks to the fact that the practice of cultural humility will improve practitioner resilience as well as empathy. Two spiritual leaders of today practice cultural humility. The first being the Dalai Lama. He teaches us as human beings we are all the same. He promotes that all religious traditions should respect one another and find the value in each perspective. He also has said that people observe several different aspects of the truth. Pope Francis has also practiced cultural humility by, for instance, washing the feet of Muslim prisoners. He's also responded to questions about the church's view on gay members. He responded, "Who am I to judge?" And he has also held many multi denominational services. In conclusion, the important points of cultural humility are that it's an ongoing commitment, that it's understanding others' perspective, and that it's about creating partnerships. To spark some conversation on the discussion board, please consider these two questions and share your thoughts if you feel comfortable. The first one is in regards to implicit biases, and there's a link for a test from Harvard that you can take to learn more about if you have any implicit bias. And then lastly, talking about cultural humility in your practice. I thank you for your time in listening to my presentation. And here are my reference. Thank you very much.